Okay, I think we'll get started now. I think there will be a few more people dialing in, but as they come on, we'll just welcome them and get things started now. We know we don't want to keep you all too long on this. We said this was going to be a very brief introduction. So first of all, welcome everyone to our webinar. My name's Mars Colucci with IronTouch, and we've got a great webinar for you today. In fact, we've got a series of webinars planned for you. We've got 4 of them in total that we're going to take you through over the next 4 to 5 weeks. And this is the first one. And what we've got for you is something very special in store. We're introducing and launching to you today a new suite of help desk and service management products called IronSuite. And I have with me today John and Deep. Guys, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear. And
then Deep?
Yes, Mars, can you hear me?
Yeah, Deep's there as well. Great. So John and Deep are going to take you through the presentation and a very brief demonstration because, as I said, we have a whole host of lineup of webinars scheduled for you over the next 5 to 6 weeks, and we will, during those webinars, take you into detail on the main components of IronSuite. But today, it's just an introduction, just to kind of give you a flavor for what's in store. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to now introduce John. John, would you like to start with the presentation?
Indeed. Thank you, Mars. One thing I will like to point out here is that everybody is on mute. So if you need to ask a question, please tap away, send them in. Mars will read them all out at the end, and we will go through them as best we can. We can't promise to have all the answers, but hopefully we'll have some. Anyways, what I'd like to do is just introduce myself and Deep, and we also have a special colleague, Godav, on the line as well to answer any particular questions that come up. But we should be pretty good, I'm thinking here. I know I'm conscious that we have a 30-minute window to present here. So what I'd like to do is cut into what on earth is IronSuite, why have IronTouch brought about IronSuite, and where, get to the nuts and bolts here and actually show you the presentation and show you the product. I think the first thing to bear in mind here is there's a few of us here who've been in the service industry for quite a while, and certainly myself, I've worked at Axios, Hornbill, Touch Paper, and Landesk, so I'm very familiar with this industry. One of the things that we notice when we walk around and seeing customers is that they regularly say to us, yeah, your product's kind of too big for us, or wouldn't it be great if we could just have this bit integrated with that bit, or couldn't we do other things? So if you'd like to move on, one of the things that we do see, and I'd give you a little opportunity here to read this. I'm not big on reading what's on the screen, people, so if you see something up there that's interesting, read away. We're happy to share all the all of the slides with you after this event. However, the key thing to take away from this is what we've looked at this is not just small companies don't just want a good enough product. They don't just want something that you can shoehorn in, take a big product, cut loads of functionality out of it and just say, there you go, guys, but it's still expensive. What we looked at here is the key things that soft companies, small companies are asking software houses, and that is their solution has to be flexible. It still has to work for them. It still has to do the things they want, to do it in an efficient manner. But just because we're small, just because we know people in our company, we may only have a couple of hundred people. We're not the tens of thousands or even the 1,000-star seat company. We still want things to be secure. And as I said earlier, we want it all to be integrated. And most importantly for everybody, even in this environment today, which is nowhere near as bad as we were 4 or 5 years ago, we still want things to be cost effective. So IronTouch took an approach about how can we make this more dynamic, how can we make this as interactive, as efficient, and also as integrated as possible. And 3 key areas we focused on: clearly service management, because we saw lots of people in that our industry. But also from my time at Landesk, increasingly we're seeing lots and lots of people who are interested in their systems management. But typically those 2 systems have been divorced. Your discipline for systems management and your discipline for service management, they may even be the same people, and certainly in smaller companies or on a departmental level, they would be the same people, but the technologies would be completely divorced. And actually, this is 2 pieces of technology that we would really, really like to talk with each other to do things. And the other piece that we're finding, clearly everyone bangs on about password resets, but the reality is lots of people forget their password. Lots of people don't bother enforcing corporate policy because they can't get users to manage their passwords effectively. And obviously, when you're enforcing changes on people, all it takes is one small vacation, one quick holiday, and they've forgotten things, or they've got a whole load of passwords that need resetting. So coming back to the point we were talking about with smaller companies and leveraging those products so that they can achieve maximum effect, what we have done is introduce the organization to a new concept called IronSuite. And IronSuite takes the best practice of all of these components. We have IronPass, which enables you to do secure password. We'll focus on all of these in a little bit of detail as we progress through this presentation. We have IronPulse, which enables you to effectively check the pulse of your estate, check the pulse of your organization and the things you are supporting. And then pulling everything together is IronDesk. We want everything to reside in a central location where we can control, we can manage, and we can effectively report to people about how effective our estate is, and at the same time drive efficiencies across our organization. So the first component of that we focused about there was IronPass. We will be discussing IronPass in the coming weeks in a lot more detail and demonstrating in a lot more detail. However, there are fundamentals around password reset that make it a critical component for any service management organization, and also for any organization that has users that have passwords. What we find is that the more you empower users to help themselves, the more satisfied they typically are with the service they receive. Now, we all know that password resets are a pain for the analyst. They're a pain for the end user because they can't get into the systems they want to get into. But also there is constantly this issue of how do we make things secure, but there's that tipping point between security and functionality, as in operational functionality. And this is one of the key things that we constantly look at. The great thing about secure self-service password reset, though, is when you employ it and you use it, excuse me, it gives you other advantages. It allows you to enforce your corporate policy effectively. It allows you to force people to change their passwords. It allows you to instruct people on challenge and response questions for those that forget. But most importantly, it allows your service desk and your service desk staff or your support staff to get on and do the things that matter, because nobody wants to be stuck down in the nitty-gritty of trivial tasks all the time. That level of functionality and automation enables you to enjoy a pretty rapid return on investment. Another component I spoke about a minute ago was IronPulse. Pulse, as I said, or IronPulse is all about checking the pulse of your estate. And there is some standard functionality here, and as we progress through, there's bits that you would expect to see in a corporate enterprise-based solution. But what we are doing here is we're bringing them down to a departmental SMB level. Companies with 500 or less employees typically would never be able to experience this level of functionality. We're not just giving you that, we're giving you the password reset, all wrapped up into a central console. Looking at a very high level, inventory is pretty standard stuff nowadays, as is remote control, but getting it all into single environments is where you start getting complexity, getting it into an environment where you can manage. So we look at deploying packages and imaging disks, as we say there. Particularly from my perspective, bits that I like, the data backup. Data backup can be automated, it can be at file level, it can be at folder level, it can be at disk level. It's very, very, very powerful. And we allow you to do all of this from within that central console, as I've said. There is a concept on here as well called software convergence. Software convergence is something we will look at, and all of these products, as I've said, we're going to look at in a bit more detail over the coming weeks. But software convergence is one that particularly makes people sit up and look and think, yeah, actually I get that. And this is almost like benchmarking the product and being able to force everybody onto a standard build, but actually any deviations, it automatically pulls that back to a new build, back to the standard build. Other things on IronPulse, the other things on IronPulse is worth focusing on or worth touching upon And we'll talk about a little bit more detail as I said, in the coming weeks, are some of the functionality, not beyond just the functionality that we spoke about just there a second ago, but actually looking at how would it work in your environment and how would you control it. There's high levels of automation, there's high levels of security, and most importantly, I believe, is that this will work on multiple OSs. So you're not just restricted to a Windows environment or a Mac environment. This will also work in your Linux, in your Unix. There's multiple areas that we can operate here. And finally, as I said, the piece that pulls everything together, the Iron Desk, is a solution that enables you to log your incidents, log your service requests, but also offer and show and externalize much of your service management. So it's enabling your internal operators and your internal employees to get a great level of service at a local level, be that in a department or be that for a small medium enterprise, whereby you can get a lot more information out of the system, but also offer best-in-class support to your users in a rapid, prompt, and logical manner. It's easy to use, and we're going to see that as we progress here. So thinking about what I've just said there and pulling all these pieces together, we're looking at IronSuite. And IronSuite consists of 3 components. Real simple, we just spoke about first. We've got IronPass, which gives you your self-service, automated, secure password reset. We have Iron Desk, which is effectively the cornerstone, the pillar that everything sits upon. And then there is Iron Pulse, which is out there doing stuff under the covers, managing your estate, enabling you to manage your estate, but also checking that everything is in good condition and pulling that back to you through inventory, allowing you to remote control, allowing you to deploy OSs and patches. So our thinking was to take all of these components, combine them together, and offer you a very good solution set at a very competitive break-even point. So our key takeaways. The solution set, as you can see on here, again, I don't want to repeat what we're talking over here, but it is integrated to your environment and it is very secure. I can't emphasize again, we're using SSH technology. It's built on open source, therefore it's well tested, well proven, and actually it's supported through Iron Touch. As consequently, you've got one throat to choke, as we'd say. Everything's pulled together, everything's integrated. You get anything going wrong, there's one throat to choke. I hope that all makes sense. I hope you've helps set the stall of what our philosophy is, and what I'd like to do is segue now into a demonstration where Deep will show you how we're going to touch upon each one of the components. And as I said, we're not going to go into them in detail, but over the coming weeks, each one we will do a specific webinar on so that you can understand how it all comes together. So without much ado, I will now hand over to Deep. Thank you, Deep. Remember, if you have any questions, anybody, please type them into the questions box and we will sort things out. Okay, thank you. Over to you, Deep.
Thank you, John. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining the call today. First module we're going to be talking about is the password reset. Every organization has their issues with passwords, and we come across many organizations. Like John said, we've been in the industry for a number of years, and every so often we have people saying we can't log on, or there's a password issue, or this, that type of issue. So the password scenario which comes across is by clicking on the URL link here, this takes us into a very, very simple icon which allows us to reset our own passwords. So put in the username, Stephen.day, as my end user is here today. And the domain automatically comes into place. So you can have multiple domains, so it's not just one single domain. You can have multiple domains which are broadcasted. By clicking on next, it asks me a series of questions. And those questions can be, reset my account, unlock my account, and move on forward from there. Now, one of these questions could be, mother's maiden name, father's middle name, date of birth. All these type of questions are all set by the individual, the end user. And these questions can be highlighted by the administrator so they know these are the type of questions they need to answer. So nice and easily put down your digits for my my card, whatever I've got. The second one type of question is my father's middle name, and I type in that and carry on. As you notice on the left hand side, I've only got 2 questions here. You can have multiple questions. You can have 1 or 3 or 5. It's entirely up to yourself. Put in my new password. And click on next. What's actually this is done in the background is this is now gone to verify into Active Directory. Wherever you've got set in your Active Directory, that's exactly the same policy comes across. So if you've got in your Active Directory that to have a digit or a capital letter or 8 numbers or whatever you've got in there, that's exactly the force which will actually come into place here. So I've put in my information, come across, and log into the system itself. Now that's basically logged me into the system. I can now carry on, continue doing my work within the system itself. Fantastic, everybody says. Well, it's nice and easy, which allows us to log into the system itself and gives us full information about the call itself moving forward. But what's actually this has actually done, moving forward is a number of key things within the system itself. Firstly, it's automatically registered call within the help desk itself. Okay, so within the help desk, it's logged a call. It sent us an email back to say, hey, a call's been created into the desk itself. By going into the email itself, it gives us full information about the call. Who's logged the call? The caller ID number, the ticket number, for example, is 1355. The subject of that call itself, so for example, who's actually reset the password itself, and date, time, the normal information which you tend to expect. But one of the key things that we've put in here is the computer name itself and the IP address of that machine. For security basis, this is a key thing, because obviously by resetting your account, resetting your details, you want to make sure that the end user is fully familiar that he's the one who's actually logged the call itself. So it gives us a full information about the call, on how the call is being progressed. Now, one of the key things from here is by clicking on the link here, and by the way, one of the questions what people tend to ask us at this moment in time, can we change the look and feel of the email? Yes, you can. You can change the structure of the email. You can choose what information is presented back to the end user itself. So those are the key things which can be done. So the end user gets a number of emails, call ID number, the time it's being called, and also by clicking on the link here, it takes us directly into what we call the service portal. Now, what is the service portal, you ask yourself? Well, the service portal, I'll just increase that. The service portal is basically the help desk side of the module. Okay. This is the second module that we're talking about now. Now, the help desk service portal allows the end user to log an incident. Okay. What we've been in the industry for a number of years, we basically geared this round to make it nice and simple for the end users as well as the support people. There's 2 types of calls which people tend to log. One is your normal incident. Hey, I log in a call, I've got a virus issue, I've got this type of issue. They tend to log a normal types of call. The second type of call is normally some kind of a request. So you can actually go along and log a normal incident, or you can go along and make a request within the system itself. By clicking on here, you can log a new request within the system itself and say, hey, I need this, or I need this type of software, or I need this type of information, and you can go along and log a call for the end user. For example, here I might just log a call for iPlayer, and I click on here and said, need this to view iPlayer image. Okay, so I can go along and log the call. One of the key factors of before I log this call itself is all the information is coming back from Active Directory, single sign-on. One of the key things with people actually say, do I have to remember another username and password? No, you don't. It's a single sign-on information. Also gives us the full details of the end user, for example, all this information is coming back from Active Directory. So by creating this call, it logs a call into the system itself. Now, one of the key things that we also talk about is announcements for example, the end user, where they turn around and say, you know, can you update the end users very quickly? Yes, you can. You can go along and put announcements into the system itself by saying this is actually causing a problem, or that's causing a problem within the system itself. Enough from that, because I don't want to say too much, because obviously we've got demonstrations going on during the next month or so. So let's go along straight into, as an analyst, into what we call the desk itself, the Iron Desk. Here's your first look of the feel of the desk itself, and as you can see from here, looking at the desk, very beautiful, very simple, very easy to look at. One of the key things here is, if I go around on the left hand side, you got a full graphical chart which basically tells us information about calls itself, the number of calls, exactly if they're breached, if they're not breached. And on the right hand side, you got what we call a beautiful real-time tag cloud. Most people actually say, well, what is a tag cloud? Well, every time you log a call within the system itself, these icons actually go bigger and smaller, so it gives you a great understanding the type of calls which are logged into the system itself. For example, what we've just done is you know, a password reset. By clicking on this, the tag computer gives us all the calls which are being logged into the system by password reset. Nicely formatted, gives us full information about that user, and as you can see from here, the call was closed within the end user. Why was the call closed? Because the end user reset his password, open the call, close the call, and we're moving on forward from that. So the call was basically updated and closed. Gives us full stats about the information itself. And also, one of the things about you know, cloud computing, it's real-time you know, trends. It gives us information about the number of calls which have been logged, you know, where they've been logged into the system itself. If you move down onto the chart itself, it gives us information about you know, number of incidents which are being called, and also my view within the system itself. So everybody can actually see a different type of calls which are being logged into the system from here. One of the key things when people do say to us from time to time is that can we sort of like look at our own type of calls which are being logged into the system? Can we go along and see the number of calls which are being breached? Yes, you can. They're all basically there, all the type of calls, and you can see from here they're all color-coded if the calls are being logged and closed within the system itself. So you can see all the calls which are being logged and closed. Also, as you can see from here, I've got all my incidents which have been opened and closed from this point. So nice and easy, beautiful charts which are actually coming along. If I look at my calls within the system itself, I can go along and see top 10 calls resolved by analysts. One of the key things people tend to ask is there a number of reports which are within the system itself? Yes, there is. You've got all the types of reports that require within the system itself, all the top 10 calls, all the number of breach calls, everything you need to do are actually there within the system itself. Okay, and if you do require further reports, our engineers will make these reports for you. But one of the key things is these are very easy, very simple to administer. So, you know, it's very easy for your analyst to go along and create these reports. Our next module is basically what we call a product called IronPulse. IronPulse is a very beautiful, should I say, I know I'm being a little bit prejudiced here, but it is a fantastic module which links into the desk itself. Now, obviously, I would have shown you from the desk, which I'll go back at if we got a little bit of time. But one of the key things here is it's got a number of users itself to see how the number of users that are being within the system. I can go along and log a call for these individual users, log an incident from there if I want to do, directly into the desk itself if I wanted to do that. The groups, number of groups within the system, how many number of groups that you have. You might actually have, you know, finance, HR, procurement. Now, when we tend to say things like that, you know, why you got so many groups, because when you want to deploy software to these machines, you can actually deploy them by group terminology. Number of computers. Once again, as you can see, the number of computers which are here. One of the key things here is what we call our, by remote controlling the machines directly from here. So I can actually go along and remote control the machine directly from the pulse itself. I can, however, go on along and if I want to log a call directly from here as well. But not only log a call, but actually I can see from here is the number of calls which are being logged by ticket by the individual user. So this gives me a very strong understanding of the calls which are being logged on that device, on that user, how long they've been open, so I can actually do further stuff within the system itself. So very simple, remote control, software deployment directly from within the system itself. I can, however, go directly from back into the desk if I wanted to, directly from here, going into the Iron Desk itself and go from one application back into the other application, which without any issues whatsoever, and I can go along and see all the calls which are being logged within the system itself. Once again, I can go into the individual user itself and go into the individual user and also look at the pulse type of scenario, and gives us a full information about the inventory, the software, the type of calls which are being logged into the system itself, and the software which is installed onto the machine. And obviously I don't want to go into too depth into all of this at this moment in time, but I can show you at a later date how from within the application you can deploy software directly from the service desk itself, but also how you can remote control the end users directly from within the system itself. Now I spoke about reports within the desk. You've got reports within the pulse itself, and you've also got reports within the password reset as well. So there's a number of reports which are fantastically put together. That, if the end user's reset his password, how many times you've got that report in password reset. Within password reset, you've also got it in the desk. How long was the call take open for? How long did the call get closed for? So, showing you all three modules, very simple, very easy. So I'll push it back to John. John, are you there? Mars?
Hello, John, are you there? I think we may have lost John. So while we're waiting for John, what we'll do now, that was a fantastic demonstration. Thanks very much, Deep. And I think everyone can see what a fantastic,
Hi guys. Yes, I am here.
powerful package we're getting with IronSuite. And it's virtually out of the box. So lots of functionality, easy to configure, easy to set up, and up and running in no time at all. So John, before we get to the questions, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say apologies for that, people. My desperate lack of knowledge with iPhones, of being a BlackBerry guy. So I just really wanted to say thank you to Deep for that. I mean, some of the key things we haven't shown you, we'll show you in the coming weeks. We'll show you about software deployments and how we automate that within the service desk itself, how within the service desk we can analyze information coming in, how, again, within Pulse, how we would, with Pulse and in service desk, remote control, physically remote control a device and show you the remote control acting. So there's some great stuff to show you. And as Deep touched upon there with the password reset, is showing you how you can configure reports and present reports. And also we'll show you on the dashboard how we pull those reports in to give you very real information in terms of things like how much money have we saved, what have we done. So Mars, I'll hand over to you to answer some of the questions that are coming through, and then I will act as somebody who could answer them based on what happens.
John, yes, we have had quite a few questions come through, actually. And the first one was from Shamrose Durrani. And his question is, for the password reset, is this in the login screen or a web server that a user who has locked their account out would visit?
Repeat that, sorry.
Would you like me to answer that? You can answer it.
Yeah, go ahead if you want.
Yeah, did you get that question?
Yeah. It's in the Gina, it's in the login screen, so they don't go to a website or anything. The whole point of this is that it could be that they're locked out as a remote user as much as a online user, and it could be locked as much as locked out, as in the account is locked as much as the machine is locked, and yeah, effectively it's a GINA. So when they click on it, there is you know, the challenge and response it comes back to them, and then they would go from there. Pete, do you want to add any more?
No, that's fantastic, John.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, John. Associated with that, another password reset question was, is it linked to Active Directory?
Yes, Mars, it's fully linked into Active Directory. So wherever policies that you have set in Active Directory, those policies, credentials will come across when the end user resets their password. For example, the number of digits, the length of the password. Do they need an upper, lower key, or do they need a digit number?
Okay. All right. Good. Another question that's come in from Greg Brenfleck. Is this a hosted system, or can it be run on premises? John, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, in this iteration, what we're showing here right now is that this would typically be run on premises. There's nothing to stop anybody having it hosted. It's just that what we see with smaller customers that we go and visit is that the appetite for hosting is perhaps not there as much as we'd anticipated initially. So we typically run this on premise, or you can run it as a cloud-based solution internally. But in fundamentally, it's an on-premise solution.
Okay, thanks, John. Another question that's come in is, we've heard that this is an open source application. Is it fully open source?
Yes. Yes.
Is that a yes? Yeah.
That's a simple answer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can't get much more clear than that. Good. Thanks, John. Another question's come in from Jim Soya. Do you have patch management as part of the IronSuite?
So Deep?
Basically, you can deploy patches to the end users by using the patch control within the post module itself. So that's one of the key things that we tend to do. We download the patches onto the post module, and then from the post module, we deploy patches to the end users' machines. But I can give you further information.
I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Jim, if you come on to our webinar, which is going to be on the first week in February. I'll send you all the dates. We'll go into Iron Pulse in much more detail, and you'll be able to see all the capabilities, of which patch management is one of those. So hopefully you can make on that one, Jim, and you'll see it in operation. Another question from Greg. What does IronSuite use, or IronDesk use, as a database?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, Deep.
I think you were going very well as well. So you got MySQL, or you can use SQL as databases for the desk itself. It depends on the size of the users. Ideally, if customers do not want to spend so much money on SQL, if they may not have the license keys, they can use MySQL, which is a free downware, I believe.
Okay. Excellent. Thanks, Deep. Another question that's come in, can you deploy software to the end user from within Help Desk?
Definitely, that's one of the key things. We had the integration within all the module itself, so you can you got the machine name, so you can deploy software directly from the desk itself. One of the key features is when somebody makes a request on a software, and that call gets logged into the desk itself, and from the desk you remote control it and also deploy it directly from the desk, and the call can automatically be updated. And the end user gets an email back to saying, hey, the call's been updated and possibly closed if the software's been deployed.
Can I add to that as well? One of the things that I particularly like about Iron Pulse is that it doesn't just deploy packages as in software packages, or you can actually deploy basically anything such as scripts, or a bit of code or anything. You can deploy that all from within the service desk as much as from within Pulse. It's either one.
Okay, thanks, guys. Another question, somewhat related. Can I remote control from the application?
Well, I think we've just answered that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Remote control from the Pulse module as well as the Iron Desk. So you can remote control from either.
Okay. Another question that's just come in from Jim. Will there be academic pricing for educational institutions?
There won't need to be. It's extremely competitively priced, and I'm more than happy to take that offline with you and have the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can have one-to-one conversations with anyone about specific needs and what we need to do for your own organization or institution if it's an educational one. Another question has just come in. This is from Larry. What if all the users are geographically diverse? Does IronSuite require users to VPN into a common environment, or do they provide that functionality?
Well, the users can be anywhere. As at the end of the day, if you've got your help desk connected to the outside world, the end user can actually log and update their calls from anywhere. As that basically also comes down to the password reset as well as Pulse. One of the key things which I did, which I only found out the other day, was I was on my iPhone, and I actually demonstrated how you can deploy a piece of software using your iPad or your iPhone to the end user's machine by logging the call and then deploying it from sitting anywhere around the world. So it makes no difference.
So Deep, can I press on that slightly based on Larry's question, which I think is actually a really, really good question. Are we saying here then that as well as an end user, which you would expect to be able to do anything with the system because effectively they'd just be logging calls and coming through a web portal, are we saying then that a technician, an analyst can basically type in a URL, access the system, and provided obviously that URL is published, they can securely do whatever they need to do from there?
Definitely, John.
Okay, good, good.
All right.
And I'd particularly like to thank anyone who's got a little dog yapping in the background. That's wonderful.
Yeah. We like to add that bit of realism to our webinars. Another question, the Tag Cloud, we showed briefly, like the Tag Cloud. Can you talk a little bit more about it, what it does, how it's used, and what else can it do?
Well,
I
think I'm thinking about time here and being conscious of this. I think that is actually a really good hook for people to come back in and have a look at the service desk in a couple of weeks when we, as I said, Mars is going to send everybody a follow-up email that will detail all of our forthcoming additional webinars, and that might be a great time to ask that question again, and we could do a little bit more detail. But I think that right now it's probably time to move on. I think Deep showed the Tag Cloud quite well, but needless to say, it's very flexible and you can apply weightings and do all other great things. And we really like the Tag Cloud. We think it's just great. So I don't know, Mars, are there any other questions here as we look to wrap up? I'm conscious that we've overrun time quite significantly.
No, I think we're okay, John. But yeah, that is all the questions that we have at the moment. So I'd like to.
For you.
What's that?
I said, there's timing for you. There's
perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yep. I'd like to thank everyone who did submit a question. It's always great to get interaction from the audience and have people pose such great questions. Gets us thinking a little bit, but also helps everybody else to understand what we're talking about because someone else is probably thinking the same thing. So thank you very much for asking those questions. And as John said, we will be holding more detailed webinars on each of the elements, the Iron Desk, the Iron Pulse, and the Iron Pass that you saw this evening today. And we'll be sending everyone out notification of when those webinars will be taking place. Pretty much they're every 2 weeks from today. So if you want to just kind of make a mental note in your diary, and they will be run at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can make a note of that, but we will be reminding you. And also, we are recording the webinars, so we will be posting these up and sending you a link to where you can access the webinars again and go through them at your leisure. So So with that, I'd like to thank everyone who attended. Any other comments from you, John or Deep, before we sign off?
I enjoyed very much the questions. Really good there. Thank you very much indeed for your interaction, people. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to come and have a look at this. And I look forward to connecting with any of you at some point in the future so that you can see how we're going with the IronSuite solution set. One question here I've just seen is a gentleman called Greg has asked, will any of the webinars start later? Greg, they're pretty well fixed in at this stage. However, that doesn't mean if it's an inconvenient time we can organise something maybe one-on-one, or alternatively we could also share with you recordings as appropriate. It's probably that second option may not be ideal, but more than happy to discuss with you perhaps what your requirements are in terms of timings, and we can get something sorted with you. But thank you very much indeed, everybody, for your feedback. I'd like to thank Deep for a very good demonstration, and I'd obviously like to thank Mars for organising and hosting this event and inviting me along.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone, and we look forward to welcoming everyone on our future webinars coming up, and you'll get notifications of those very shortly. Thanks very much, everyone.